Hello, echoing the sound, it's me, WizFan, and I'm here to show you how I done did it. The Fragile Megamix, so many directions. Yeah, the title comes from that journal about the song 10 Miles High. You can find a good picture on the Nin Wiki. At the end of the text there was a quote, "There are so many directions it could go." This is what I was trying to accomplish with this Megamix. I wanted to show how many directions you can take with those songs. I mean, this is a monstrous work. The Fragile is an epic, it's a saga, you know. By simply rearranging the tracks and collaging them with the sounds from the DVDs and making crossfades, overlaps, using alternate mixes and remixes. I wanted to tell a different story with the same songs that we all know and love. First of all, let me show you this folder here, the Nin thing. You can see all the resources I have used and did not use. I just dumped everything I could find on the Fragile, like the Into the Void single, didn't use it. We're in this together, didn't use that. The Day the World, nope, didn't use that either. I used 10 Miles High. No, I used the Deviations one, sorry. The Deluxe edition. I always confused Deluxe with Deviations, you know, DE. The Porter Riggs mix, I could have used that somehow. Complications of the Flesh, I did use that. These are the audio files from the original SWF files, you know, the previews that were in the nin.com website. They had those little flash files, animations, that had the snippets from The Day the World Went Away and Starfucker. And this is from the Quiet remix. Na 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 na. Yeah, you can tell that these were sourced from the original multi-tracks of the songs. Here's Starfuckers. My God! Lovely. And this is the Big Calm Down. It was actually the first 9 Inch Nails song with multi-tracks, and I think that was in 1999 when the first was released, or 2000, somewhere like that. And you know, the internet sucked back then. It was the stone age of the internet. The multi-tracks were very short, and I have here 3 different rips of the same multi-tracks from that e-mix application thing that Trent had made back then. Yeah. Gotta get back to the bottom. Big calm down, isn't that what you wanted? Calm down, isn't that what you wanted? Hey, I said that. Next we have Star Suckers, didn't use that. Things Falling Apart. Yeah, I used a lot of this much maligned album, you know. Many people hate Trent just for ruining the Fragile's legacy with this remix album. But I think that after a few listens, it gets better, it grows on you. I'm still not a big fan of Slipping Away, I think it's a bit too much. And 3 remixes of Starfuckers. I really like this one by Charlie Clouser because it really gets bonkers at the very end. It has metal, amazing cover. Here I have the vinyl rip. I did not use it, but the thing I like about the vinyl rip is that it has a slightly alternate track list, whereas everybody is track 7 on the CD and 10 Miles High is track 9, but in the vinyl they have switched orders, probably due to the limitations of the vinyl. They couldn't fit the songs in the same way as the CD. That's what I'm guessing, and I think it flows better. If you don't have the vinyl rip, try rearranging Where's Everybody in 10 Miles High on your CDs or FLAC rips and listen to it again. It's worth it. Deep, I didn't use it, and All That Could Have Been. Oh yeah, that's the DTS files, I think. Still, yeah, I used a lot of that as well. The Inevitable Rise and Liberation of Naked Artist, yeah. I didn't use the vocal tracks, but I did use a couple of instrumentals because I believe that they were in their original form in that Fragile demo CD that Trent gave Saul Williams. I isolated some center, left, right, side left, side right, the surround channels from the DTS mix of And All That Could Have Been. You know, it's funny because And All That Could Have Been was in DTS 2448, but you know, it's the lossy version of DTS, so it was in 24-bit, but it was lossy. So in order to make a clean conversion of that in waveforms so I could edit it, I had to use EAC32. It uses a very advanced codec to decode the DTS files with no re-encoding or loss of data, so it's pretty clean. I recommend it, and it's freeware. Use EAC32 or FFmpeg. I use those things a lot. As you can see, these are all surround FLACs. I had to isolate channels. EAC32 and FFmpeg have an option to separate the surround files into separate WAVs, as I have here. The multitracks for Banged and Blown Through. Beside You in Time, I didn't use this because the 5.1 mix wasn't that good. These are the big thing, the DVD menus. This is what I isolated. These are the separated channels, Brood. And this is the subwoofer channel, I believe. Yeah. I think that was heard when you saw the Nothing Records logo. The clock. Yeah, I cannot fast forward this, sorry. But we will listen to this later on. The interview cuts, this is from the interview essentials, yes.
Much to, I think, everybody's surprise, they fit in well.
This is the CRC Sessions bootleg. Used even deeper, very high quality. I'm very surprised that it's a soundboard recording. Terrific concert, and I think that the Day the World Went Away from Still is actually from the CRC Sessions. Deviations 1 and Fragile 2017 Definitive Edition, of course, these took the lion's meat of the Megamix. Apple Music instrumentals, they are pretty much identical to the Deviations one, except for some minor differences. La Mer is corrected because it used to have this sound, and The Day the World Went Away, this is the instrumental of the Quiet remix, not the album version. Here we have some stuff that I did and did not use, like No You Don't. And Pedagogue of Young Gods, this is another Saul Williams song. It's actually No One Ever Does. Saul Williams is not singing here, he is actually reciting a poem of his. I didn't use it eventually. I didn't use any vocals by Saul Williams. Sorry. The New Flesh.
Sideways, sometimes some things feel like...
Yeah, the whispers from the isolated portions of the And All That Could Have Been menus. I had to use the Isotope RX in order to clean up the noise.
Sometimes some things feel like...
And this is a filter that I'm using a lot, multiband dynamics. I use it as a de-esser.
Sometimes some things feel like... Sometimes some things feel like...
You know, I'm reducing the sometimes and some compression here. The New Flesh is all in a group of its own. All the tracks here are the New Flesh, and I have used the glue compressor and the limiter. And here are the surround channels of the New Flesh. and you can see the waveforms are increasing. These are the front, left, and right.
How it all begins.
I had to use some subtle panning here. As you can see, the envelopes, the trend's voice is traveling from channel to channel. Screaming left to right. Oh yeah, this was a very eerie coincidence. I mean, I was using this part.
Yes, I am becoming.
When I used the surround tracks here, I decided to use the rear surround left and right, and it's the same thing. It's yes, I am becoming, and I had placed this thing and this thing at the same time. It was so scary. I mean, I jumped off my seat when I placed them at the same time, and I didn't even notice that. Because I had soloed this track and I could still hear the whisperings, and I was like, how? And here I'm doing this grand transition into the actual song. Yeah, and you can see this is the deviations instrumental, and this is the vocal one, because the deviations instrumental had a longer intro, and I had to synchronize this with this. You can hear the bass is happening at the same time. And we go to the album version. I'm really pleased by how this happened. I get goosebumps because of how well this turned out to be. Here I used Deviations instrumental again because and then it transitions. Just the piano. I wanted Trent to shut up here, just the piano. This is somewhat damaged. This is from the Deviations because the original sounds a bit different. You know, it's a different mix. And here I used the ending. I had to synchronize the hats, but otherwise it's identical. That part sounds so dated. And here I made a transition. I named it Brood. It's one of the sounds from the And All That Could Have Been menu. And this is the same thing, but only the subwoofer track. The mark has been made. I like following up Somewhat Damaged with the mark has been made because it has this twangy guitar and it's a heavy, hard-hitting song. I'm not sure I did this right. It sounds a bit off to me. You know, this is the guitar from the Deviations and this is the studio one. I had to synchronize them. A funny thing I discovered about the Deviations is that there is this very low guitar in the mix. That one. Brown, brown. That one. In the Deviations version, that guitar is moved to these parts. instead of these ones. And I tried to make a mix with this, but it didn't work out. Here, back to the deviations. I really like this build-up. And here I made the one that everyone wished for, the extended ending from. And all that could have been, a different group, again, a compressor and lots of de-essing happening here, all in real time, EQing. This is the center channel. I love that you can only hear Jerome, Danny and Trent, and some bass synths by Charlie. And this is the left and the right front speaker. I had to max them out because I wanted it to be as loud and clipped, I guess, as the studio version. And then back to the studio. I had to make a slight edit here because it leads to the wretched. Just that little portion. This is the intro from the Mark Pellington edit of We're in This Together. I really like the sound design here. Really brilliant stuff, and here it seamlessly transitions to the deluxe edition. Yeah, I wanted to imitate the edit on the original, because that is how it happens. Atrocious quality. Yeah, that's better. I didn't do much here. I really love this track. I didn't want to mess around with it, but I did transition to the ending of the music video again, just because I wanted to have the wind. Back to the. This is the single version because it has a slightly longer outro. And Living Hope. Yeah, this is the persistence of loss, the final seconds, and then Living Hope. I wanted the transitions to be as smooth as possible. Brilliant track. And here I'm playing with the multi-tracks from The Day the World Went Away. Very low quality, and they are in monophonic sound, but they were perfect for what I was trying to accomplish here, because here you can see I'm slowly building up to the instrumental because it had a longer intro. I had to sync them up, it took a lot of effort. And then the classic track that we all know and love. Yeah, it's pretty much untouched from here on now. But I did try to imitate the ending with these. I tried to make the same ending. It wasn't perfect, but I did my best, following up with "This is how it all begins." Yeah, I did my best. This is the deviation version of the Frail because it's a different mix. It doesn't have the effects and the reverbs on the piano. I wanted it to transition to the album version because the piano is just untampered with. And this has effects. So I sync them up. They line up perfectly. I always remember to make a fade here. You know, some things you just cannot change. The frail, the wretched, they always go hand to hand, and I didn't want to mess around with it, but I did mess around here. You know, that remix is the closest we'll ever get to actual multi-tracks for the time being. And again, this is from the instrumental of Deviations, and I synced it up with the remix. That was a last minute decision. Not perfect timing wise, but I'm happy with it. Then we have the march. Yeah, also not very happy with this edit. I could have used the intro from Skin of a Drum, I guess, but that was very last minute decision. I named this one This Is How It All Begins. This is how it all begins. It's just how I named it, so it wouldn't confuse me. I think I used it twice, and there were some sounds in the stereo version of the menus that I did not use, but I used this one twice, so this is my one big regret, the extended version of the intro. And the Fragile, you know, the first rule of the Fragile is you don't fuck with the title track. I could have used the Deviations instrumental, the still version, some soundboard quality bootleg, but no, even if we had the full multi-tracks for the song, I wouldn't have changed a single note. This is how much this track means to me. And here the appendage. Trent has not released the high quality version of appendage with vocals, so I just used it as an intro, and I fooled around with the equalizer. See how it moves. Yeah! Again, I did some small editing here with the Deviations. I wanted it to last a little longer, you know, so I just copied the same chorus from the instrumental and added it here to extend it. This could use some solo, not a guitar solo, because that would have been too 9 Inch Nailsy. Maybe a marimba solo, a tambourine solo, a didgeridoo solo. Yes, Trent, never be enough to fill me up. Hey. Okay, not to pat myself in the back too much, but that was perfect. Bravo, Whizfan.
I can take it.
Some portions from the whispers in the beginning, the clock from the and all that could have been menu. This is just the front, left and right speakers. This is the center channel, and these are the rear speakers with Trent sighing. Yeah, here a very, very, very small edit from the intro of Just Like You Imagine. Slight extension. That part right here. That doesn't exist in the Deviations version, just so you know. I tried to do something with it, didn't work out, but I always wanted to do this. Hey, it's just the bass. I think Trent was actually playing the bass line here, not Danny. I'm not sure. I think Trent played it in the rehearsals, but not sure if this is Danny or Trent, but it's still brilliant. You can faintly hear the other instruments in the background. And this is feeders. Of course I had to shorten feeders, it was way too long. Hey, Whispering Friend again, I had to sync it up. This is the remix. Again, it was Keith Hilbrand or Charlie. I think that edit was a bit too abrupt, but I didn't know how else to do it. This is like the X-ray scan of the song, not just the skeleton, but this was good. That worked perfectly. Not much to say here. Yeah, this is the second time I used it, how it all things. And again, some of the demos. This is from the behind the surface, beneath the surface, that bonus, that Easter egg menu in and all that could have been disc 2. Brilliant sound design here. And here I synced up the studio version of La Mer with the remix by Danny and Charlie, I think. Yeah, not much else here. This is my biggest dream, you know. I actually watched and listened and all that could have been before I listened to the Fragile. So the first time I heard The Great Below was from the live version. Now that I had the instrumental and I could isolate Trent's voice from The Great Below, I had to actually raise the pitch by 1 because this is how it actually sounds on the DVD.
The roll is said and done.
You know, they played it not one octave, one semitone below The Great Below. But when I transposed it,
the roll is said and done. The roll is said and done. The roll is said and done.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit chipmunky, but this is how I wanted it to sound. And I did some small edits because Trent drops his microphone stand.
Is there hope for me?
You cannot imagine how astounded I was when the a cappella from the live version and the instrumental lined up perfectly. I mean, the center channel has some small bass synths. And they line up perfectly. I mean, it's the same tempo. They probably played to a metronome with the same BPM as the studio version, because this is awesome. This is brilliant. Listen to the drums.
Even so far away.
It's perfect. I have no words, really. And no one ever does instrumental. A good transition. Again, I'm playing with the SWF audio files. This is from the Quiet remix, and I synced it up with the na-na-na-nas. This is from the Apple Music instrumentals. I didn't want it to have vocals. I wanted it to be a quiet reprise of The Day the World Went Away. I didn't do the standard thing of just putting together songs that have the same motifs, such as The Frail and The Fragile, Into the Void and Slipping Away, Underneath It All and The Great Below and all that could have been now. I wanted it to have spaces just like in the original CDs. The way out is through. Yeah, we are in the right disc and we are not. Haha. Hold on, I have to make this the right way.
But still we go.
Yeah, I wanted to imitate the look and feel, the sound and feel of the television commercials from the Fragile. This is a straight up rip from the commercial.
But still we go.
Because yeah, I forgot to mention that on my original Echoing the Sound post, but I wanted to pay tribute to those TV commercials. I wanted the Megamix to be a 2.5 hour TV commercial with no picture. And the saddest track of all, the loss of Trent's grandmother. I'm looking forward to joining the final. I cut off the vocals completely here. Because, yeah, Trent is screaming here, and no disrespect to Trent's vocals, Hubert. I guess I wanted it to be sadder, no, more respectful, no. I wanted it to be different, sorry. I didn't want to insult you, Trent. It did have a cleaner ending here, no transitions, so I could make one of my own. You see, I didn't see deviations as a unique sonic experience, but rather a tool to create one. The Great Collapse. Don't forget, guys, there is an awful overhang. I hate it. That's the final second of slipping away. You know, the guy who made the CD of Things Falling Apart did a very botched job with the overhangs and whatnot. But The Great Collapse is a great little track. Very mysterious. This is the track that received anonymous praise from the NIN community, perhaps the greatest of the demos from Deviations 1. Every one of us is wondering how it was sound like if it had lyrics. You know, the synths here have an almost Depeche Mode-like quality, and you can hear the drum and bass influence. The closest thing that the final version of the Fragile had to drum and bass were Complication and Starfucker Sync. It was a good thing when Trent was starting to realize that drum and bass wasn't going to be popular for that long. Same with the ending of Somewhat Damaged, the original one from the Deviations version, with the bass techno synths. They were sounded dated in retrospect, so I'm glad Trent cut them off. And the Dr. Dre song, even deeper. You know, I did a huge mess out of the tracks and the clips because I wanted to be lost in the Fragile. I wanted each track to lead me to the next one. This is the CRC Sessions bootleg soundboard quality thanks to NIN Live. And again some and all that could have been sounds together with Complications of the Flesh.
Give it to me.
Lots of crossfades, as you can see here. And go! I wish the vocals in Complication, the live version where Trent goes, oh, ah! Oh, I actually hit the note. They weren't that separated, and it's a pity because I wanted to do a bonkers version. But yeah, this is all the deviations instead of the original. It's slightly different, I think. And my least favorite song, 10 Miles High. Oh god, I'm sure Trent hates this song because he said that there were 3 different versions of the song with embarrassing lyrics, as he says. And even the final version sounds like it was botched because Trent must have hated it. The 10 Miles High version on Things Falling Apart was tweaked by Keith Hillebrand, but I want to believe that this version, the We're in This Together single version that was later in the vinyl and the deluxe edition, that this one was also manipulated by Keith Hillebrand because the original one with Hello, Everything Is Not Okay. I think that Trent was so fed up with this song that he just destroyed it at the end. And Trent was embarrassed by that as well, so he only added a small reminder, as he says in the original CDs, right before please.
I tried to get so high.
Chopped off a lot of stuff here. You can hear Trent and some female backup singers. Maybe it was the prelude to the female backup singers in the Tension tour, Lisa Fisher and Charlotte Gibson, but here... Yeah, if you look up the lyrics on MinWiki, they are borderline ridiculous. But I think the female backup singers are actually a jab at Marilyn Manson's I Don't Like the Drugs, but the drugs like me. Again, I'm speculating, but I like to think that that's the case. I small edit here, and then... This is the Things Falling Apart version, because I wanted to follow up the riff. Yeah, that was a bit of a failed experiment. I think somebody did actually edit Hello Everything Is Not Okay with the vocals from 10 Miles High. I haven't heard it. This was the moment when I said, I don't know what else to do with this stupid song. Let's just cut to Pilgrimage. Yeah, I didn't want to do anything else. But Pilgrimage, yeah, I played a lot with deviations and final version. You know, the trumpet is missing from the deviation version. You know, this track is bonkers, so I wanted to extend it to make it even crazier. Really love this trumpet, it's brilliant. Haha! Another amazing edit by yours truly. Do we know who plays the drums here? This is obviously a metronome. This is either Jerome Dillon or Tony Thompson. Tony Thompson is credited with the Fragile, but nobody knows where he really plays. I don't know. Maybe Claustrophobia Machine is the only track Tony Thompson played and then he was fired. I don't know. Hey! Playing around with the surround mix, but this time I go full insane. This is the center channel, because I wanted to sync it with the snare. And yeah, I didn't use the studio version of Starfuckers at all. I wanted the live version because it's faster and furiouser, and some fades.
There you came, fucking insincerity.
I always saw Starfuckers as an anomaly of sorts in the original Fragile CD. The whole album is about self-exploration, failed relationships, and his family and his health falling apart. Starfuckers is just... I don't know. If I had to use Starfuckers, I had to use the live version, because this track was actually made for the live mayhem. And oh, here's a little multi-track for you. Again from the previews.
Just over and everything's fine.
Yeah, I did the edits from the German interview from the Roskilde festival, where Trent is talking about his rift with Manson.
We had some problems a long time, and
there's not enough.
I had to use Isotope RX to clean up some of the crackle. When Trent says intelligent people making the microphone is crackling, so I had to fix that. And then I had to synchronize the don't you.
It's time to don't you.
And
Don't you.
oh my god! Again, I had to clean it up a lot because it was very poor quality. But you know, the Manson version, you can't live without it. You know, nobody thought it would actually happen, but it did. The Kiss sample. The single of Starfuckers, you know, that there was the complication as if it was played live. He had put some reverb on it, but I actually used the multitracks from Banged and Blown Through, just the synth. I did a little shot in the dark here because we don't know if this synth line was in the actual demos for the Fragile or if Trent had played it in the Nicky Stardust sessions, but whatever, it's my Megamix, yeah. This track is so unsettling, so creepy, and it actually has the end of The Great Below. Very faintly heard, but I didn't do the transition. Oh yeah, I think that was a bit abrupt as well. Well, okay, it's not bad. Can I stay here? I had to shorten it a bit because, you know, we're nearing the end of the Megamix, so I couldn't drag the instrumentals too much, you know. Hey! I imitated the beginning of the Big Come Down with the multitracks. And again I played a little bit with the vocals and some equalizer. You can see it's moving well. Lots of envelopes here. Coming, it's a bit cheesy, but it's a loud, stupid, fun track, so I couldn't have made it any less cheesier. Hey, missing places. Again, I didn't place it in the beginning of We're in This Together because I used the Mark Pellington intro and I wanted this to be, you know, a slight seg of sorts. I really like how it sounds progressive, like it's building up to something, like a now loading screen in a PlayStation 1 game. This is so fun, you know, this remix was made by Danny Lohner and Elephant Tel Aviv. And Where Is Everybody? Didn't do much with it either, because the instrumental was identical music-wise. But here, oh my god, this is the craziest collage I've ever done. I used many tracks at once. This is the last heard from. You know, this portion is eerily reminiscent of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo soundtrack. I mean, this bell sound, the atmosphere, the chopped, distorted sounds. It sounds very much like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And here, the crickets from the And All That Could Have Been screens. The only way to get here. And the creepiest of all, the scream. Center channel. Trent did this in the And All That Could Have Been menus in order to scare people who may have left their TV screen on for a long time. I wanted it to be the final nail the final nail on this coffin of awful sounds. 5 tracks at the same time. This is the bass line that leads to the mark has been made, but no, it leads to this confusion of sounds. Chaos, that's what the name is all about.
Is there hope for me?
Well, I don't know, Trent. Is there? I wanted it to be a gentle reminder that Trent, the character, is still trying to find a way. And ripe. The narrator is not trying something different, he's trying a new approach in his life and he ends up ripe. Hey! It's not ripe with decay, it's ripe with Into the Void. I wanted to try something very different. I really love Into the Void. I think it's one of the best tracks that Trent has ever produced. It took me a lot of times to really appreciate it because I thought it sounded very silly at first, very upbeat. I mean, what the hell is going on? It sounded very weird to me. But after listening to it a couple of million times, I understood its brilliance. It hasn't diluted at all. It hasn't aged. It still sounds fresh and exciting and brilliant. A lot of complicated emotions. It sounds upbeat and major key, but it also sounds depressing. It has those scary lyrics, and I think that's the thing that Trent makes best. One of Trent's biggest assets is that he is able to juxtapose happy melodic music with aggressive and terrible rhythms and lyrics, and I think that's what makes the original Hurt so great. I mean, no offense to the Johnny Cash version of Hurt, but it's very obvious, you know, it's a minor key country, depressing. It's depressing from the get-go, but the original Hurt has those major key melodies that are always surprising, you know.
I just save myself, but myself keeps slipping.
Underneath It All, when I first listened to the Underneath It All version, it confused me rhythmically because I couldn't understand what was happening between the rhythms and the synth. It's very brilliant, and the deviations instrumental, the Apple Music anyway. When I listened to this isolated part, I was like, oh, I get it, that's what's happening. It happens way offbeat, the synth. It's very jarring, but it fits, you know. It's chaotic, but it works. It's chaotic, but it's not random. Brilliant track. It's a gentle reminder that Into the Void, the character is still trying to find some purpose in his life, but he still has the bad memories, and it's all that remains in the end. All I do, I can still feel you, but I wanted the Megamix to end on a positive note, so we have Adrift and At Peace. I wanted it to be the final chapter, like the Fragile was always some kind of story that was told in a non-chronological order, and the finale is actually Adrift and At Peace. That's how I want it to end. And that's my Megamix in a nutshell. One final thing for those of you who are using Ableton Live. This thing, as you can see here, is 154 minutes long, and I exported it in 2496 just like the original. I used the limiter only for the sound collages because the actual songs don't need limiting. I did use -1 dB just to convert to MP3, so there wasn't any clipping when I would upload it to Mixcloud. But as you can see here, I have separated the Megamix in 4 distinct parts. I had to render it in 4 WAVs because the resulting file was so big that Ableton Live wouldn't allow me to export it. Ableton Live can only export 2.5 gigabytes of wave max, and this thing, the entire Megamix, is 5 gigabytes, so I had to export the individual 4 parts like this, and then I had to combine the tracks. I had to mux them MUX using NKV tool mix, and then the muxing is I took all the individual wave files, the 4 parts, and I joined them together. I exported it as Matroska audio, and then I losslessly converted it to wave with EAC32, no re-encoding, so you know I did an amazing job. Bravo, another pat in the back. So this was So Many Directions, the Fragile Megamix. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching. Bye!